Hello everyone, it is Sam Mackler here, and today I'm here to talk to you about my health, more specifically about EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So EDS, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, is a group of genetic mutations or disorders, all of them having to do with the connective tissue and a protein called collagen. So your collagen is defective, which affects your connective tissue, so it's not quite as strong or as effective as in someone who doesn't have EDS. So collagen is the protein that makes up connective tissue, and the connective tissue is oftentimes called the glue that holds your body together. So the connective tissue holds your joints in place, it keeps your muscles and ligaments in place, it keeps all of your organs in place, it keeps your skin normal and tight around your body. So when the connective tissue is not as it should be, a lot of the body does get affected by that. So the main characteristics of EDS are going to be really soft skin, because the connective tissue in your skin is really weak, so it'll be very soft, very delicate, really stretchy. Your joints are going to be really hypermobile and loose, and they'll dislocate really easily. Your organs won't be staying in place all the way, your blood vessels can be super weak, and your heart can be either weakened or the arteries are affected. But EDS has 13 different subtypes, so each subtype is different. With each subtype, the connective tissue affects different things in different ways. So starting at one end of the spectrum, you have the hypermobile type, so hypermobile EDS. This type, the connective tissue mostly affects all of your joints. So your joints are going to be really hypermobile, you can stretch them really far, dislocate them super easily, and things like your organs and skin are going to be affected as well, but normally not as strongly as in the other types. Hypermobile is the only type of EDS that we don't know what the gene is that is affected, so there's no genetic testing for it, and it is also the most common EDS type. On the other end of the spectrum, you have vascular type. This is the most rare EDS, as well as considered to be the most dangerous or severe type of EDS. This type mostly affects the heart and the arteries, though it can also affect the skin, joints, and organs, and everything else. So with vascular EDS, your arteries tend to be weakened, and your blood vessels tend to be weakened. Both vascular and EDS have their skin is a lot less affected, so for the hypermobile type, one of the requirements is actually the lack of super stretchy skin that you see in other types, but that's not always the case. And same thing with vascular, it's not always as typical to see super stretchy skin as in some of the other types. So classical EDS would be another example of a EDS form that kind of falls in the middle, and there are of course 10 other types other than those three. Although I don't know much about any other than hypermobile and vascular. So all types of EDS are considered to be fairly rare, hypermobile type being rare and vascular being incredibly rare, and all the others fall somewhere in the middle of that. So not a lot is known about these, there's not a lot of research done about EDS, and not a lot of doctors tend to know about it. There's also not a lot of media that focuses on it. Most of the media that is focused on EDS is about hypermobile type. So you're probably wondering, how do I know about this? And that is all thanks to Jessica Kellgren-Fozard, one of my favorite YouTubers of all times. I've been watching her for years and I love her so much. And I've kind of been following along her medical journey with her, and about 6 months ago, she posted a video about how she was misdiagnosed. So within this video, Jessica talked a lot about how she discovered EDS, how she and her doctor talked about it, and things like that. But she also talked about some of the things about EDS. And this was the video that I actually first learned about EDS. And looking back on it now, I was in my dorm room with my roommates and a few of our friends, and we were all just kind of working on homework, and I was watching this video while I worked, and she gave 2 little facts about EDS. She said that first of all, her arm span is several inches longer than her height, which I think is funny because my arm span is actually several inches shorter than my height. And then she also mentioned how she can do a little hand trick. So basically, it's your middle and your ring finger together, your index and your pinky right in front, and your thumb in the middle. And you can't really bend your hand, so it should be all standing up. That was my shoulder. So, you know, she was like, basically it means that I can do this. And I went, that's easy, everyone can do that. See, I can do that. And I went, hold on, that does look a little bit weird. And I was like, okay, well, let me ask my roommate and my friends. None of them could do it. So I was kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting to know. And that's when I started to do a lot more research about EDS, and I looked into it a lot. And as I was kind of skimming over some of the information at first, I was like, this would actually make a lot of sense if it was connected to me. And then of course, this was about a week or 2 weeks before COVID really hit America and everything got shut down. So I was going to talk to my doctor about it when I went back home over spring break, but COVID hit and my doctor's office closed, so I didn't talk for a while, and then I was moving, and then, you know, a whole bunch of crazy stuff this summer, so I never really got around to talking to anyone about it until recently. So like I said, I spent the summer kind of moving, and I go to the Savannah College of Art and Design. So this year I'm a sophomore, and I was in the dorms last year, but this year I am in my very own apartment, and I love it so much. But I moved into the apartment officially. My family was moving away from where they live, so I had to switch all of my doctors over to here. So I eventually made an appointment to get a new primary doctor here in Savannah, and I went in going in with my history, what meds I was taking, kind of where I am in diagnosis and things like that, and where I hope to be going. And I was geared up for battle. I was so ready. I had photo evidence, I had lists of everything. I was not going to back down this time. And I brought up EDS briefly once. My doctor actually knew about EDS. There was a doctor working in the office who has EDS, so he knew about it, and he went, yeah, that makes sense, and automatically started pulling up tests and things like that. So I was a little over-prepared on that end, but I was so happy. I have spent the last 2 or 3 years now kind of going in and out of doctors, not sure what was wrong with me. It started with my wrists hurting really bad, so we kind of went in for that, and then I was like, well, you know, I kind of hurt everywhere and not really sure what's wrong. And my doctor did some tests and he was like, fibromyalgia. I have tea, but I'm using a straw because my wrists are so bad I can't hold a cup and move it in my hands at the same time without popping my wrists out of place. So my doctor said fibromyalgia and just kind of brushed me off and kept going, and I remember my rheumatologist briefly mentioning that I was hypermobile and not really saying much more about that, so that's a little bit funny that they noticed that but didn't really elaborate on it or think that it actually connected to anything. Yeah, so I've kind of been in and out of doctors and no one's known what's wrong with me, and it's just been a little bit frustrating and no one really listens. My first doctor actually said that I had carpal tunnel, and I was like, I don't think I have carpal tunnel. And then eventually they did some testing and wow, turns out I don't have carpal tunnel. No surprise, surprise there. It's just been a very frustrating journey, and I haven't really had much answers until recently. And it was really nice to be listened to and to be heard by someone who took me seriously and actually valued what I had to say. So my doctor said that he could diagnose me right there in the office with EDS. He said I definitely have EDS, and that we could just say I have hypermobile type and be done with it, or he said that we can go do some genetic testing to see if it's a different subtype. So I said I wanted to do some testing because we both agreed that I could be either on the hypermobile subtype or I could have vascular. And there's a little bit of a difference between the two. So I think I'd like to know just for sure which one I do have. But it's been really nice to actually know what's wrong with me finally, especially since EDS has been sitting in the back of my head for months now. It almost still doesn't feel real. I still feel like I'm almost like jumping to conclusions, but my doctor has said that this is what I have. So pretty cool with that. So we are scheduling up genetic testing to test for the other subtypes. And we're also going to be doing some echo scans of my heart just to make sure that everything's doing okay in there as well. So I figure I'm gonna give you some of my symptoms, I guess, characteristics, because that's always super interesting. And I love learning about other people's bodies, so I figured I might as well share. So you can probably see I have really, really soft skin. I don't know how well you can actually see how soft I am, but it's really, really soft, really velvety smooth. I don't use lotion ever. I use it on my face and that's it, because otherwise my skin gets really delicate, or even more delicate. On the topic of my skin, it's not that stretchy, so it is a little bit stretchy. I can pull it off. I'm a little bit hot right now in this sweater, but I do have some stretchy skin, but not all that stretchy. It's mostly soft and really, really delicate. Like if I'm trying to open like a water bottle, like the water bottle will like rip the skin of my thumb, which is not fun. So my skin just tears so easily. I said I was going to tell you things I do have, but I'm also telling you stuff I don't have, I guess. I have never really bruised, actually, and I go to the extreme of not bruising. So even when I've broken bones, I've never really bruised there anyways. The only time I ever bruise is if I actually like burst a vein. But other than that, unless I actually burst a vein, I don't really bruise, so I can like smack myself into a wall and be totally fine. So unless that vein actually popped, no bruising ever for me. Which is a little bit odd considering that most people with EDS bruise super, super easily. So still on the topic of my skin, as you could probably see, it moves around a lot and it's super translucent. You can see the veins that run all the way through my hand, up my arm. Then you can see my veins that go across my chest, and you can see my veins everywhere. My skin is super, super clear. And when I get really warm, like for example, I'm really warm right now, my chest will turn sort of red with too much blood pooling there, and if I'm cold, I turn purple. Like purple, which people always get really concerned about. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I can't regulate my own temperature, and you can see through my skin super easily. I am on the hypermobile spectrum, so my joints are pretty hypermobile, and I do dislocate and sublux them all the time. Dislocation, you probably know what that is when your joint is fully out of its socket, and a subluxation is when it's half of the way out. I don't dislocate things as much. I dislocate my fingers on like a daily basis, my toes pretty regularly. My jaw will dislocate every few months, so luckily not too often, but it's been happening more and more frequently, which isn't good. But for subluxing, I do that all the time. I mean, my shoulder already popped out earlier. Trigger warning for joints, like joints popping in and out. My shoulder will pop in and out really a lot. My wrist will, I don't know if you can hear that. It's just gross. my hips will pop out, my knees hyperextend all the time and pop out, my toes never stay in place, my fingers again, they never stay in place. I'll go ahead and show you so you can kind of see. I can just pop the joint completely out really easily and just like twist it around, which looks really disturbing. My thumb joints too, they kind of like go backwards. This one not quite as much, but it still does it. Kind of look like a little like crab. That's all I'm going to show you right now because doing anything else hurts. Oh, I could show you my elbow. My elbows are really, they just go wee, extend all the way, which is fun. Anytime I like lean on it, it like pops that way. Not fun at all. So yeah, that's about, those are my joints. They never stay in place, any of them. I get really out of breath really easily, and it's not because I'm unfit, although I'm probably not as fit as I used to be because I haven't been to the gym in a while with COVID. I used to go pretty regularly. Now I don't. But I always get really out of breath really quickly, especially if I'm like sitting up or standing. If I'm lying down, I'm a lot better. And I kind of thought I had POTS for a while, but I have like the opposite issue a lot of the time, where my heart rate tends to be okay. It's my blood pressure that goes crazy everywhere. It'll like rise like a ton every time I stand up, and I've been very well known to pass out when I stood up. I passed out this morning in the bathroom actually. So that's a fun thing. And POTS, I'm gonna put the like name for POTS on the screen because I can't, it's like post something orthostatic tension. I can never remember what it means. This is the dyslexia kicking in. POTS tends to be associated with EDS a lot, so that would be another thing. My veins are really fragile, I know that much. So even if I don't have vascular EDS, my veins are still super fragile. I actually just got the flu shot a few days ago, and it's been a few days, so the swelling's not as bad. But you can kind of see I had a vein that popped while getting my flu shot. And it's been several days, so it's really just yellow now, but it used to be like blue, and then there was red everywhere. You can still kind of see the red. So my veins pop super easily. I'm wearing long pants right now, otherwise I'd show you my legs, but I have varicose? Is that how you say it? I have spider veins kind of going like all down my thigh, through my knees, literally everywhere. I feel like I should mention I'm 19 years old. I really shouldn't be having spider veins, but I do. Story of my life right there. My digestion actually tends to be super good, but sometimes I can't eat gluten, sometimes I can't eat dairy. And I've been vegetarian for a few years, so I never eat meat. But I don't really have too many issues with my digestion, but I'm still only 19. I guess that I still have time for that to kick in. Hope it doesn't, but yeah, always could. So I think that's kind of about it for all I can think of right now about my characteristics. I actually hadn't intended to talk about that at all, but here we are. So kind of like in summary of everything, I was diagnosed with EDS, and we're currently going to be testing to see which subtype I have, whether, and it could be another one, but more than likely either hypermobile or vascular. So with hypermobile, if that's the one I have, yay. It's the biggest community. It's the one that most people know the most about, so it'd be fairly easy to, you know, kind of talk about with people. There's a bigger community there. There's more, you know, social media content for it and things like that. And it's not as severe, so it wouldn't impact my life quite as much. Or at least more than it already is. It's pretty stable for the most part. But my joints would be falling apart in a little while, but they're already doing that, so it wouldn't be anything new. If I do have vascular type though, that one has a life expectancy average of around 50 years old. And that one is, any little pain that happens could be associated to a heart issue and a really severe issue that is life-threatening. So I think the term that most people use is emergencies, and like emergency situations. So if it is vascular, I may have to change a few things in my life, but I would rather know now, that way I can actually prevent stuff later on in my life. But yeah, so I don't know what subtype I have quite yet, but that's where I am at the moment, and I don't know why I did that with my hair. So that's where I am at the moment, and I didn't really talk about anything earth-shattering, and I think this video has been kind of a mess. I think it's currently 2 a.m. And it's almost finals week for me. So I am absolutely certain that this video has been a hot mess. So I don't know how much I actually talked about anything. But if you would like to learn more about EDS, there are a lot of, I'm not gonna say a lot. There are a few other YouTubers and other people out there who are creating content about EDS. I will recommend a few videos. Jessica Kellgren-Fozard. I mean, first of all, she's gay. Second of all, vintage clothing all the time. Third of all, a bunch of interesting educational, like, health things. I love her. If you haven't watched her, please do. She makes videos about EDS too. And then I recommend is Izzy KornBlau. She is a huge face in the EDS community right now. She makes a lot of EDS videos. That's kind of her entire YouTube channel. And she is so smart and so like helpful and educational. So if you want to actually learn about EDS, I would highly suggest checking out her videos, because I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. And then there's quite a few others who are out there doing stuff. There's more videos about EDS. You can always look it up on Google. Lots of fun information there. So, in summary, my name is Sam Mackler, the one, the only, and I have EDS. So I think I'm just gonna take you guys with me through a little journey of my diagnosis with EDS. I realize I'm starting a little bit late, considering that I've already been diagnosed with EDS, but we haven't finished, and this story will not end till I die, so that was a bit morbid. But yeah, basically, been diagnosed with EDS, that happened, and we'll see where we go from here. I will probably make a video as I find out what subtype of EDS I have and talk more in depth about that later. So if you guys want to see anything else related to EDS, give me a like, give me a thumbs up. I need validation to make me happy. Thanks. Subscribe. And if you want to see anything specific, or you guys have any actual questions, like, let me know in the comments. You can also Instagram me. I have 2 different Instagrams. One is my cosplay Instagram, and one is gonna be my personal Instagram. So sam.cosplay is my cosplay account, and Mackler, MACLER __ is my more personal account. So follow me on either of those. Give me a DM, whatever you'd like. Let me know if you want any other types of videos about this, because I have no idea what I'm doing, but I hope that this can be an actual thing I do, because I've really enjoyed sitting here for 40 minutes and talking to myself at 2 a.m. So I'm gonna go, hopefully get some sleep, and stop talking, because I'm sure this is a very long, very rambly video, and I'm not gonna have fun editing this. But I'm gonna stop talking before I give myself more stuff to edit. So here's my channel, and there's gonna be something else here. I don't know what's gonna be here yet, so I'm gonna go for real now. Love you all. Thanks for watching this mess of a video. Mwah.